Hey, everybody, welcome back to Red Road Paranormal. I am your co host, Christina. I am here with Rez, who is also a co host, and our friend Greg has joined us this wonderful day, and we are going to have some fun. Did you want to introduce Greg, or do you want me to introduce Greg?
I'm going with the flow. You know me.
All
So,
righty, go
uh,
ahead.
all
Flow
right,
away.
everyone, your favorite redneck here with our good friend, Mr. Greg Koss. Hopefully, I said that right, sir.
Yeah, yep.
This man, he has a couple of shows out there, the Mariner Spirit and When Spirits Connect. Spirit Connects.
Connect.
Sorry about that.
Connect.
Connect.
Yeah. So, he's been in the paranormal field for a very long time, very knowledgeable and experienced. So, Greg, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself for those that aren't familiar with you?
I started out pretty much as a little kid and had things happen. They took my mom away when I was 2 with polio. I can remember being in one of the hospitals where they had her in iron lung, and the hallways were really sort of dark, and they had those crucifixes on the wall, and my mind was like running rampant.
Wow.
And it
Yeah.
it it took me in a totally different direction than everybody else in the family. I and then that's where that stopped until I was 10, and we were at Gettysburg. My dad took my mom was still in the hospital, and we went to Gettysburg, and we were at an area that was called, I want to say it's Reynolds Woods. And Reynolds Woods was the highest ranking officer in that whole entire battle. He was a major general, and he was killed there on day one. And we were they had the picket fence set up in front and everything, and we pulled up. My dad would never go to every different spot. As soon as he found a spot, he would just park, and that's where we would stay. That was his modus operandi from when I was a little kid on, all the way across the United States. No matter where it was, he would never move once he'd pull in. So we were there, and the proverbial hit the fan, literally, with all as the wind would come in and then the wind would slow down, we started hearing everything. And I mean everything. We had the rounds were going off above our heads. We heard pistols, and we heard rifles, and we heard screaming, and we heard the horses screaming. And we heard, every different scenario you could think of. And it was all happening like that. And then the wind would go out and it would die off. And it would be a couple minutes, and then it would come right back in again. And this went on. We got there first thing in the morning, and I want to say it was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon when we left. And
Hmm.
my father sort of took me by the back of my neck, and he went in and he said to me, "When we get home, you don't mention this to anybody." And he was a World War II guy in the Navy. And as we were walking to the car, there was a Ranger's car, and this is before they had real a, a real park. And he went up, and I went up just to listen to what he was saying, and he asked the Ranger. He says, we were hearing all sorts of real noises, real cannons, and rifles, and people screaming. And he said to my dad, he says, that happens all the time. And I just thought it was more of a bond for me to continue this pursuit, even though from that period on until I was in school up in the UP of Michigan, there was nothing. And then that was basically UFOs. And that was where Dr. Heinrich from Project Blue Book was teaching, I want to say. And a friend of mine introduced me to him, and we used to have parties. And he used to
Nice.
talk, and we used to talk about everything, and we'd be out there at night, and we used to watch the lights. We used to watch them. They'd come in, and it wasn't even 10 minutes later that the jets would take off from that one base up there outside of Houghton and Hancock. I can't remember the name of the town where they had the base, but the fighters would go after them. So, I got home and I was still at that point where this was still before I went overseas. I did see one in Thailand, and I had some experiences spiritually as far as the people, the Thai people and the Vietnamese people that I knew that, led me to believe that there were other ways for me to look at things. I didn't have to be contemporary and say I'm going to be a good Catholic, for instance, and I'm going to go to church every week and I'm going to take my $20 bill and put it in the basket. No, this is entirely different. This is what's in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And at that point, when I came home, I was still really drinking and carrying on. And I used to make fun of it all the time. But in essence, I was making fun of myself because there was so much going on about the things I had already seen, even though they were so minute, that it was like planting of the seed. The people that were around, and it took me a while, almost my whole entire career working. And I left a lot of it alone because I had too many ghosts in the closet. There's another psychic medium that I got to meet at one of the Paracons that was put on by Robin Terry. And I'm going to leave her name out of it, but I said, maybe you could help me out. I have all this confusion as far as what I feel, and, when you talk about the mourner or you talk about survivor's guilt and things like that, and, that it all comes into play with everything we talk about, basically, because you still see the same guys. But she went ahead and she said, I can see you're standing right here and you're down on one knee and you've got your hand on your forehead and you're going back and forth like this. And behind you is 4 guys, 4 or 5. I can't remember what she said. And they're all going, it's okay. It's okay. And I remember it was like it was yesterday. And I was already involved with Dale Kazmarek and Ghost Research Society on the south side of Chicago, he was an icon in the paranormal community for being in it at over 40 years. And he was at that particular time, he became my mentor. And then I had a little falling out because I was already into spirit boxes and he was going into an area he had no experience at. And he never, like I would go ahead and I'd say, hey, look this picture I got, that I captured, and it would be orbs. And he didn't believe in orbs. and that kind of thing. And so we went ahead. I went ahead and I kept on. I was doing the Estes. I started with the spirit boxes. The first place that I really felt good at, I felt at home at, was on the triangular field at Gettysburg as an adult, halfway down the hill. And there on the right hand side as you're going down the hill. And we were with Rosemary Allen Gelly and her husband. And me, her, and her husband were walking down the field. And I says, well, I'm going over here. And she says, we're going down to the creek because that's where all that blood ended up. Because the Confederates came out of the forest and started to charge up the hill. And it was such a steep hill that all the Union troops were firing down, but the Confederates had really nobody to aim at. So it was a slaughter. So I was standing there and I just started my spirit box up, and I had a K2 and I had a recorder, and I started talking. And it was really, I was sort of bearing my soul to a certain extent. And as I say this, I start getting more nervous right now. You know, my tremors are coming really heavy right now. And it's the way, because of the feelings. There was a point where I sort of closed my eyes and I could see them coming out of the woods. And I had my hands out, and that was for real. I had my hands out and I could feel them as they came around me, because we were all brothers. And up at the top of that hill was Dale and the rest of the group. And they were doing their spirit box up there with 8 people. And every time a word would come through, I could hear it plain as day, 100 yards down. You know how it is in the dark and at night. And I could hear the word come through, and they would argue about what it was saying. And I was going, no, there's got to be another way. Because, spirit has got to be super confused at this point of trying to understand why these humans are arguing about what they're saying.
Right.
And it was, to me, it was very disrespectful. So it wasn't even like maybe a year later, maybe a little over a year, that Hellier came out. And I had already had like 2-3 visits to the big hotel in the one that they named the big one where what's his name wrote his book.
The Stanley.
To Stanley. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I had a brain fart.
It happens.
It happens.
And it was that place that they started. And I've heard different versions, because I heard Tim Woolworth told me. Now that was a blind ghost box application. It wasn't a Estes method. But the guys, Connor Randall and Carl Pfeiffer, were 2 of the guys that were in Hellier that had worked at the Stanley and conducted the tours. And there's a series on YouTube that you can see that shows them when they were doing, and I was sucking this stuff up like there was no end to it. I was pumped. I felt invigorated, and I felt like I was on a path. And that's what really turned the page for me as far as spirit box communication. And then there was one other thing that happened. There was a round table show that would come on, and Austin Maynard was on there, Tony Rathman. I don't know if Ron Iacovetti was on there, but there were one or two other guys, and I think they were from the East Coast. And they were all talking about conducting spirit box sessions. And I went ahead and I'm listening to this, so I had to ask him a question because I had been on and I'm going all over the map right now. I apologize for this. I'm going back and forth, but it was I'm trying to get it all out at one time and it's not coming out. There there
It's okay.
was
Take your time.
there
Right.
was there was a there was a spot that I thought, and now I just lost my train of thought. They they were in the middle of this round table discussion, and it was on their work. And those are some of the biggest people. And Woolworth, I think Tim Woolworth was there too. And he's like an icon to me too. And they were talking, and I had to write in the question because we were at an investigation on Western Iowa, almost on the border at Farrar School, I think it was. And we were picking, it was about 3 times in a row. I was picking up above the white noise. I was picking this ticking up. And it was really weird. And one night I was watching one of those space programs with where we're sending things out into space.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like it was like a science thing. And they said, and now this is the sound, the noise that space makes. And I don't know if you guys had remember seeing that or anything, but it was a real weird sound. And then there was ticking in it. And I kept it to myself. And we were at for our school, and I had just mentioned, I said that there's something weird that's been going on. And my partner, who was Mike Wright, and he used to be at GRS, he said, yeah, he says, I'm picking up the same thing because we were doing a double Estes. And so we experienced that. He bailed out. He didn't even finish the session. He got frightened. So he got out. I stayed to the end, and I have it recorded. It's on film. We left there. The next thing I know, I'm watching this roundtable thing on Facebook. So I've got to ask these guys that question. And the question was, this is what we were hearing through our headphones. And it was this ticking noise and this silence above the white noise. And then this ticking would start, and you could actually separate the white noise from the ticking. It was weird. It was really weird. And they were sitting at the table, and all of a sudden, two of them started smiling. And then I don't know. I want to say it was Tony Rathman maybe said, he went ahead and he says, "Isn't that what Frank was all about?" And it was like a hallelujah to me because I get goosebumps when I think about it because I knew where I was going. That was the sign on the side of the road that told me this is the way I need to go. This is going to tell me about my guides. I'm going to be able to talk to my guides through Spirit Box. I'm going to be able to do all this stuff that I've been trying for like 3 years at that point with Scotty Rourke as my mentor and doing some unbelievable things. But I always had that question. You know what I mean? That you always question yourself as far as your validity is concerned. You do, you know,
Yeah.
and that's where I've been. But when they said Frank, and I go, Frank Sumption, and in the back of my head immediately was that copy of Popular Science magazine or Popular Mechanics that had the picture, and it had a little headline on the bottom of it and says how to talk to space people.
I
And you opened
remember
it,
seeing that.
and I opened it up. I
Okay.
was in a drugstore when I was young, when I was a kid.
Hmm.
And I opened it up and there was a full page ad, and it was, I don't remember how much money it was. You send it in, they're going to send you the plans for making one of these boxes to talk to space people. And, you know, the first guy to do it was Frank Sumption. And Frank took that. And then how many years later, he went ahead and gave a box to one of the people, that one of his friends that would come over, that had just happened to be in the paranormal. And that's how that whole thing started.
Old Frank's box.
Yes.
Okay.
So now,
Very
you
cool.
know, I don't have a Frank's box. I wish that I did,
I heard they're
but,
very rare.
and they're very expensive.
Yep.
I know somebody that has quite a few of them, and I've been pleading with them, but there's no go. And he is one of the people that is sort of right up there with the Woolworth. You know, I wish the hell I had an opportunity to meet that man. And he was called his name on the spirit box was the Purple Princess.
Hmm. Interesting.
That's what they called him on the communications. And he was one of them. And when that all went down, I knew where I needed to go. And I stayed, I was on that path, and, I would talk. I get all wound up when I start talking about this. So I was with the Staffords, Katie and KD, and it was one of the shows in Chicago. I used to go every year to the Paracon in Chicago, which was the best convention around as far as I had any experience at. And so I started really talking to him. And the next thing I know, I went ahead and I have nanocoms. I've got two nanocoms. I've got this box. I've got an S, a ink box like this, a little small portable one, ink box S. This is another
Okay.
little piece of machinery that it's just like a wonder machine. And it's one of theirs. And I I felt at home. Uh I still feel at home. The reason I do the shows, the ones they show, is it's all Estes, and it's basically double Estes sessions that are conducted from various locations. And the whole idea behind it was the fact of the long distance. Like if I have two people in Texas, okay, one of them out of those two people, and they'd all be on my show, would do another box, another Estes session with somebody else from another location. And the wording not doesn't come all the time, but when it does come, it's almost a bantering that's back and
Oh,
forth. So the spirit must be using the cables. I still don't have the answers to all that, but I found it very interesting what goes on with that show, and what the people I have are, so they're really great at what they do. So that's where I am even to this day. And I enjoy doing it. I enjoy not necessarily pushing myself. There's times that I feel a little overwhelmed with some of the things that I hear. And I consider myself at times to be blessed in that direction. And, Scotty's been sick, and, I wanted to talk to him about some of the stuff and last 4 or 5 weeks. And, and he's the one, he was my mentor for me, for my being an empath, and the basics towards my psychic end of it, even though I don't really consider myself to be really, really, I'll read cards, but I don't consider myself to be anywhere remotely close to like Christina or you or Julie Couch.
I'm nowhere near as good as she is.
I've
She's
been doing it
phenomenal.
for a long time, but thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's what makes this show really remarkable, is because I'm in your presence.
And
Yep.
likewise, otherwise too, it's the same way.
It's where we were, where we had to come from,
Mm-hmm.
what we had to go through, the people that were surrounding me at the time that I decided I had to go,
Mm-hmm.
and they're still there. And I could care less, because it's my journey.
Right.
Yep.
Some people in the community have a tendency to want to say, well, no, it's the group's journey. I don't want to go there for some reason. And I
It's
don't think it's a selfishness as much as it is a pursuit.
Right.
And some people do not pursue as fast as others.
I would agree
you
with
know,
that.
I look at it as far as being a member of a team. I'm on my journey. The team I belong to, they're on similar journeys, but when we come together, we're able to progress together. Doesn't mean that I can't do my own research, follow what I truly believe, because what I find out and for information, or what I learned through my journey, can help the team's journey overall. It's what we bring to the table. It's not just about the team and only the team. It's about everybody involved.
Exactly.
I'm glad you said that, because
Yeah.
that puts it all together.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am, but I'm not. If I
Yeah.
had, it's me and Reggie right now.
Yeah.
There's nobody else, but we don't need anybody else right now. He's such a phenomenal guy as far as spirit box work is concerned, that he's just, you can't, you don't even know where he's at times.
Hey, Greg, I asked you to scoot over a little bit to your right. You keep leaning this way and it cuts part of your face off.
That's because of the way my neck is,
Yeah.
with
So
them.
trust me, I get the neck issues.
But
As you
that's,
ever notice, I lean too.
that's a guy that, when I first met him and he said he was a star seed, I couldn't grasp it. But I can today, because I hear the voices.
You
Yeah.
And, that's why, we keep on doing these shows. But Reggie's Reggie. There's no other Reggies.
I think I've been on a few shows where he's popped in. whether it's been up on the screen or in the comments. He's a pretty cool cat. You know, I'm hoping in the future get together with you guys in person and hang out and exchange stories.
Yeah, it's the we went we became members with Anthony down there, with the wraith hunters, and we all went down. It was last April, at the end of April, and we all went into the forest, and it was a journey like no other.
Did you come back to the same dimension you left from, going into the forest?
No,
Okay. Everybody who has been there, who is part of Wraith Hunters that I've talked to, which is now 4 people, including you, everybody has said the same thing. They came back in a different dimension.
you know that
And you know what?
you know what's on the back of this shirt, right?
No.
Can you see it?
Everybody goes
Everybody
in,
goes in.
no one comes out the same. All right.
Nice.
Yep.
You know, eventually I'm making my way down there. Me and Wraith have talked about it. It's just timing. You know, I'm interested to see this forest, to feel it, to really see what I pick up on. I'm very much intrigued.
He has gone ahead and he was talking about this probably a year, 2 years before we even got an opportunity to go. But it has so much in it that you have to go there so many times to just grasp individual things every time you go in. You know what I mean? You don't get it all.
No, no,
Right.
Because they don't show. And
they give
whether
you
they're
glimpses.
yes, yes. And it was I would go ahead and I'd set up on a picnic table. I pull my spirit box out and start running it. And I'm going, and it's like, come on, let's go. We're gonna go down the path. We're going into the big woods. And what happened the first time, he sends me and Reggie in first.
I think he told us that story
I think so.
because we had Anthony on the show, and I'm pretty sure he
Yep.
told us that story.
Now,
Yeah.
can we back it up for a second?
Sure.
When you were talking about Gettysburg as a child, something kind of came into my head, and then you progressed to talk more about Gettysburg and how you were connected to it. What popped in my head was you were there in the beginning during this. Have you ever had a past life regression to find out if you were part of the Civil War in Gettysburg?
I've had with Dr. Chuck Kennedy, who just recently died. Me and Chuck Williams, he was with GRS too, and we'd go over and have lunches with Dr. Chuck. And he already had a stroke and he was laid up, but he was the one that brain mapped me.
Okay.
Okay.
And he did all that. And then Reverend Christina, you know who she is?
Yep. Christina Rake.
Bishop
Yep.
Rake. Well, she was there too. And I was talking about my neck. And in the past life, they were talking about that I was a warrior. And I was a warrior in quite a few of my past lives.
Mm-hmm.
And which meant,
Definitely.
and then she said that I had lost, this had come off numerous times, and that's why I have so many issues with the back of my neck. And I said, well, I'm not that big of a guy, No, and it says you still lost your head.
It's what's in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what we carry in here. It's not what we carry on the outside. And warrior, I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Warrior, soldier, all along them lines. I seriously think and feel as like you were there, and that's why you connected so much and so to have the experiences there, to be as vivid as it was, and
I
why
wish,
you're
I
so
wish, I wish,
emotional.
I wish I could go back some more times. And I am going to try this next year again. If I could get some people that I know to go. But not that there's other places that I really want to visit. All I need is a triangular field.
No,
And I'm perfectly happy. I want to be able to see if I could still experience, if they're going to understand that I'm still their brother, and they can come out and we could meet.
they do. Um,
He's got
arm hairs are
goosebumps. Yeah.
standing straight up. As soon as you said that, no, they do. They
Yeah.
they see you for who you are and who you've been.
We had another, after this all went down, since I was before when I got 71, before 71, my in-laws would stay at a resort up on Star Lake. And it it was different names at the time, but it became Hintz's North Star Lodge. And Bill Hintz, sort of grew
Mhm.
up with me in the respect that he was growing his resort. And I was up there every year, and there were things that were going on that I couldn't explain. And this is another part of where I would do things. But anyway, I would start to investigate the old lodge, which was basically a log and field stone building that was 2 stories. The top story was these 8 bedrooms, and all they were beds and a door. And the bathrooms were down at the end of the hall. My kids were little kids, and we were staying there overnight because it was raining and we couldn't stay at the campsite. So we stayed there, and I had a snoot full, and I got up to go to the bathroom. And as I was going down the hallway, there was a winding birch staircase that went down to the ground floor, and there was a piano. And this all is still all there. Everything's filed. As I was going by, I was coming down the hallway, I was going, who the hell is playing the piano at this time of night? And I got closer and I looked down, and there was nobody sitting there, but the pedals were going up and down. So I said, player piano. There were 2 pianos. One of them was a player piano, and the other one was a real one. When they tore the resort down 2 years ago, they tore the whole friggin' place and took the Waldheim, which was the old original resort. They took that down too. They broke that piano. And it was 10 years later
Yeah.
that I found out about all this through Bill, the guy that owned the resort and that. And we always, I would go into the main lodge. Everybody else would be in the cabins. And I'd go there and I'd have one of my sons come down and film me with the camera. And I would do Estes sessions. And I found out a lot because the guy who built all this was a guy by the name of Harry Starr. And they named the lake after him. He was a young man. He was like 30 years old at the time. He built the mill. They had all the logging was going on up there at the time. Uh he met his end the morning of his wedding. at the sawmill, and he lost his head.
Yeah.
Now, I couldn't understand how a guy 30 years old, because, if you're in a mill and you know how those logs are coming,
Hmm.
you get out of the way, right? It took me like 12 sessions upstairs, like where I used to stay. I stayed that one time when all that was going on down below. And the word came through. And the word was hernia.
Hmm.
And then it made sense.
Yeah.
He had a hernia. He went to get out of the way, and the pain grabbed him, and he didn't move.
Wasn't quick. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes
I could see
sense.
that.
And I've been wanting to tell Bill this, because after he sold it, he's around, but I haven't run into him yet. And he is the only one that, when I saw Harry up in the window, of the old lodge, and right next door was a restaurant. I think Christina knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
You
it's sounding vaguely familiar.
you know North Star Lodge, and they had the
Vaguely,
big
yeah.
restaurant. Well, I'd come up and see him as soon as I got in, because I used to always give him garlic, because I grew my own garlic, and I would give him the bulbs, and then he would use some of them, and then he would keep some of them and plant them. And I was going along, and I looked up, and I knew that this weekend, this big family had this big get together, and there were like almost 50 people. And I looked up in the window, and I saw this guy he had a white collared, high collared shirt, and he had a black vest on, and he had a black handlebar mustache. And he just was staring down. And I just looked, and I went, wow, I'd never seen this guy before, and just kept on going. So later on, I went around where all the people were at, and I just kept on walking around trying to see where this guy was. And then I went up to Bill, and I says, you know what? Earlier, and the panes of the windows on that place too were the old glass.
Yeah.
They would go
They have
like
like waves in it. Yeah.
the
Yep.
waves.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I said, this is what this guy looked like. And he starts laughing, and he says, that's Harry. Harry would play games on the girls that worked in the kitchen. 4 girls would work on this giant butcher block table, and they would make salads. And he told me this story, one of the last stories he told me when the restaurant was open. They were working there, and they had one new girl there with them. And she had pigtails. And they were working, and all of a sudden Harry came through and just sort of waved behind one of the girls on the other opposite end of the table. And she says, Harry, cut it out. And the girl's going, what are you talking about? And then she says, no, I don't believe in any of that. And as she's saying that, the pigtails went up like this. They were like antennas.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
I've
that
seen
girl,
stuff like that happen. That's awesome.
and that girl, the new girl, that was her last day.
I'll bet.
She got the hell scared out of her, and she left
Yep.
But she's a believer now.
somewhere.
Yeah.
You know Malik's, the Malik's? Did you know
Yes.
Jennifer Malik and
Yes.
you knew her husband?
I knew her husband. I actually went to high school with his sisters. They were friends of mine.
Okay. I'm trying to remember his name, but he was at the last Chicago Paracon, and I got a few pictures with him and Jen. And
Okay.
that was like 2 weeks before he died.
Kevin. His name was Kevin.
Kevin.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you that the last time we had talked,
Yep.
and I had forgot.
Yeah.
And now for some reason the name just pops right into this blanket, this
Mm-hmm.
empty cabeza.
But Joni just recently passed away. Kevin's
Oh, really?
mom. Yeah. Yeah.
He had a bunch of surgeries, though, I heard.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jennifer Millick
Yeah.
worked with the doctor too.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that. She worked with Chuck, Dr. Chuck. Yeah.
And there were a bunch of girls, and Chuck Williams worked with them too. And
Mm-hmm.
he did a lot of remote viewing with them. And like 2 years ago, they were the ones that found the the trailer in Texas that had like 500 people in it
Oh, wow.
the day before Christmas.
I don't
And
remember that.
yeah, it was his last big find
Okay.
that the group had.
Mm-hmm.
But they're all remarkable. There's other people that I could mention too that are in the paranormal that were part of that too.
Mm-hmm.
He had asked me to join, and I says, I don't think I am. I'm not that, you know, I don't think I'm there.
Yeah.
You know,
I remember when Jennifer and Kevin had a show and I happened to be up in the area, so I stopped and was a guest of theirs, and that was fun. We were broadcasting from their living room, I think, but it was fun. Yeah. Before I ever
they're
Very
started
cool.
doing any of the shows, and it was good. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
there's a lot of different stories though. You probably got 100 times that, Russ.
Yeah.
So does so
Diff-
does Christina.
Different things have happened over the years.
Mm-hmm.
It's just when I choose to keep myself open, more happens. But when I put them blinders on, it's like I'm numb to the world. You
I think
know,
that's true
I
for
go
all of
through
us once we figure it out. Once we figure out how to put the blinders back on.
yep,
Yeah.
But I go through spurts of how I do my meditations and stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
yep. I'm
And
terrible at meditation. I really am.
I fall asleep. No.
See, that's the problem I'd have. I'd try to meditate and I'd put on, some kind of music or something to help to bring the vibrations together. I didn't fall asleep. And then I got to thinking a lot of the times that I actually do meditate, I'm doing things. It's when
Mm-hmm.
I'm have my radio going in the background and I'm doing something like my tattoos, even doing tattoo work. I check out. I go on autopilot, and that's a lot of times I'll get my downloads or I get inspiration. And there's times where I step back from a tattoo that I'm working on while I've kind of zoned out during that. And you look at it and go, wow, I did that. So I think, that's a normal, like I'm channeling and everything else in the process as I'm stepping back for that meditation. I find that in driving occasionally too.
Yeah. I
There
find
were
it driving and writing. When I'm writing, I just zone out and it just moves through me and comes out.
Yeah.
do you channel a lot too, Christina?
I do. Yeah.
Oh, she knows. Oh yeah.
The way you
Weekly,
said
huh?
that just cracked me up.
I
Have you
I
never tuned into Tuesday nights with her?
that's Reggie's night. I wish I could. I'd be there in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
But
some of the
the way
Tuesday
things
nights.
go.
Yeah, I used to do I haven't done it for a while now, but I used to do a Facebook Live in my private group on Tuesday nights. And a lot of times, whatever I was talking about, it just moved through me. And if I didn't go back and listen to it, I wouldn't even know what was said because I'm just not there.
I got scared twice doing it
Only
in the
twice?
beginning. In the beginning.
Okay. I
But
get scared all the time.
one of them involved one of the guys that was in the old group. who was a victim of that shootout at Northern Illinois University when those kids were killed.
Mm-hmm.
And he was shot. And he was recording the words as I was doing a session on stage. And when we got done, he poked me and told me it was time. And I took him off and I looked at him and I says, "Are you okay?" He says, "No." And he says, "I have to go outside right now." And I says, "What is going on?" He says, you mentioned like 5 or 6 different things that all directly pertain to that day that I was shot.
Wow.
And it really bothered me, that first one, like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were doing an event at a bar, and I was going to do an Estes session. And I started, and there were people in there in it, and it's not my way of doing things because I don't like to be in a mixed group of people where people are drinking
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of thing. You know,
Yeah.
I love intention, and I love it to be magnified. That's the way I love to run my Wednesday show. You have to have that intention, and you have to be able to ask permission to be the conduit through which they speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I went ahead and I said some more. I went through the whole session and I pulled everything off, and I thought, boy, that was just shitty. And you don't remember anything, but you just get the feeling.
Yeah.
But I had it in the pit of my stomach this time.
Mm-hmm.
And I got up and I walked over and I said, "Do you know what you were saying?" I said, "No, I don't have any idea. I don't remember any of it, of anything that I say."
Yep.
And there were 2 girls, ladies at the other end of the bar that were employees there. And I had mentioned one word that was their safe word between the 2 girls. So when they were ready to leave the bar, they would say the safe word so they knew, they would get up before somebody started piling drinks in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the one word. And the other word was the nickname of the one girl that had for her girlfriend that was killed in a car crash.
Wow. That's
And
intense.
there was some really weird name too. It wasn't, and well, do you remember saying, and I'm going, no, I really don't. And I think that the way things go today in today's world, I I have to go ahead and be thankful for what happens,
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time say if I can help in any other way besides that. Well, you got something in your room there?
Something just blinked in here.
I was watching Greg. I wasn't watching you at all. I missed it.
And yeah, we should have been watching Rez.
I should have been.
It
We
happens from
both of
time to
us should.
time.
Well, I saw him look up, and I thought, oh boy, you don't have, it's not over there by is it?
Yeah, I was actually in my head jokingly thinking about the safe word. I'm like, is it pineapple? Yeah,
Go to
well,
your
next thing I
room.
know, I am in my room.
I'd like to, I used to keep all the words. We used to record everything by hand.
Yeah,
And I got out of using a recorder because that's another thing you have to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Where's the recorder? Is it on? And you're doing it and you don't have any idea So I never did that. So that's why I went to live too. And we started doing the shows and the people,
The
I had
interaction.
had,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Chris Carr and Kristen Johnson from, that's Bigfoot and the Bunny, Dark Horse Paranormal from
Right.
Yep.
Connecticut. They,
Heard of him.
they, they are amazing too. They're part of it. Katie Stafford's part of it. Victoria Munday.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to get Katie on the show for a while, and he's agreed on his show that he'd come on.
You mean
But
KD?
yeah, Katie, he's agreed to come on through the comments, but I can't get him to answer my messages. I think
Hmm.
he's a really cool guy. I think it'd be fun to have on the show. You know,
Him and Austin. Him and
yep.
Austin are like the odd couple.
And see, I like watching that show, except for now I'm not on nights no more, so I don't catch it as often as I used to. But that'd be the one of the shows that I'd be constantly commenting on.
It's
Just you
I
know,
would, a guy, and I don't know what kind of shape he is because he had hurt his head pretty bad, was Tim Woolworth. And I had been with him probably 3 years ago at Robin Terry's, one of his events for autographs, Tim Miley's.
okay.
And that's when I had a picture of Tim Miley and Tim Woolworth, and I was in the center of those two guys, and I looked like I needed a pair of short pants and a lollipop.
That's not an image I needed to see. Thanks, Greg.
They're both pretty tall guys. Yeah.
Jesus, yeah,
Yeah.
they're trees for Christ's sake.
Christina, next time we go somewhere where we know he's going to be, we get one of them big lollipops
One of
for
those
him.
big, yeah, those colorful
Yeah.
ones. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't even eat. I
I'm
don't
gonna
even
get,
eat lollipops.
I'm gonna get a Red Road Paranormal sticker to put right on it.
There you go. There
That
you
is,
go.
it's been a real unusual journey, but I wouldn't replace it with anything else.
Right,
I
exactly.
wouldn't,
I
and I used to musky fish like a crazy man. And then there's stories that are attached to that too that are paranormal.
Yep,
On the Chippewa flowage, Ghost Island.
Mm-hmm.
heard of it.
You know why they call it Ghost Island?
I'm assuming ghosts.
Deaths around the island.
Yeah.
The Brave on his horse, and Dave DeRazio was an old friend of mine, and David's dead now. Him and one of the other guides, I can't think of his name right now, were out fishing off of Ghost Island, and the sun had just set, and they were out there, and they took a Polaroid picture, and they captured it of this Brave with the full headdress all the way down his back, I guess, on his horse going across the tops of the trees.
Interesting.
That's cool. That's
And
cool.
he told me that because he said, "Oh, you're starting to do this ghost stuff, you know." And I says, "Well, you got one of the best places in the world right around here.
Yep.
The whole area
Oh yeah.
is amazing. I think the States, the history is so rich,
Yeah.
and that there's so many people that had vivid pasts that kept a lot of that with them when they passed."
I would agree with that. Yeah, there's especially like the northern part of the state, we've got the Chequamegon National Forest, there's all kinds of local state forests. There's how many lakes in Wisconsin? It's like 15,000 lakes or something. And,
Hmm.
there's a lot of that is just there is so much lore, but it's not just spirits, it's also cryptids. And it's
Yep.
also, there's a lot of UFO activity in the northern part of the state. And there's a lot that goes on in Wisconsin that people probably would not associate with the state of Wisconsin if they've never been here and experienced it.
Have you ever seen any Fae up there?
Oh, yeah.
It's up here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
they're about that size, and they light
I
up, right?
I haven't seen them with my own eyes, but I've heard reports and encounters with them from other people that I trust.
Yeah.
They're
When
in
I
the
grew up
forest.
in,
They're in the
yeah.
forest too.
When I grew up in
Yeah.
the forest, dryads. There were the dryads and the fairies and just
You
The
mean
little people.
the
the
little
druids?
people.
The druids?
No, dryads.
What is a dryad? How are you
It's a
spelling it?
tree spirit. It's Dryad. It's a
And
tree
it's a tree
spirit.
spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Every tree has a spirit.
Yep. Yeah, I could see them when
Oh,
I was a
And they're
kid.
all
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah. The fairy
you know who Jay
circles.
Pachochin is?
Yep.
Yep.
You know Jay?
I don't
Yep.
know him personally, but I know
You
who he
know
is.
you know of his work in the kettle
Yep.
marine.
I've been down to the kettle. Jay has been at a couple of our conventions. Actually, I believe this shirt that I'm wearing now, he was at this particular year convention as one of our speakers. That's where I've
He's
gotten to meeting him, and
I knew him a long time ago
yep,
with Mary Marshall.
back when it was
Who
just the paranormal days before he got into
well
Bigfoot.
he was just getting into going out there, and then Mary would go out there with him.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about how the tree breathes at
Mhm.
night, and those what are they, like energy bubbles or exhaling, and the bubbles would come out
Mm-hmm.
from the ground and they would like glow.
Yeah.
I've
Mhm.
never seen that, but I've
I
if I
saw it
tried
when we
if
lived out there. Yeah. I was probably
I
12 or 13 at that time. And I remember
I
seeing things
imagine
like that.
if I told people in my family that I had seen something like that, you know what they would do with me?
They give you one of them funny white jackets where your arms are tied in the back.
Where you're hugging yourself. It's a hug me coat.
Yeah, hug me, cut.
So,
Can I
Greg,
have
I
a
actually,
candy bar?
Greg, if someone wants to reach out to you to like find out anything about your shows, about your work, how would they get a hold of you?
On Facebook, Greg Koss. They can go. The shows are all listed on Facebook individually.
Okay.
Uh, one's Spirit Connect and the other one's Mariner Spirit, and then they have their own separate pages. There's not a lot on those pages,
Okay.
but that's basically where, and those the shows also go over to YouTube.
Okay.
So they're
Awesome.
all over there too. Katie and KD have just done, they're doing an amazing job, and
yep.
they've, the people they have, Russell and Julie, it's a fun place to be,
Awesome.
and they all work together. I missed the
Awesome.
meeting Sunday because of some stupid football game.
Yeah, I'm a little salty
Yeah.
about that one.
Oh God.
Go Bears.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, if there is one thing I could not care less about on this planet, it's football. Seriously, could not care less.
Sorry, this is over. Goodbye. Greg, it's now you and me on Red Road, okay?
All right. You got my
No.
job, Greg.
Now you got to produce, and I just got to get the guests. You got to run
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah, because that's the way this
It's-
works.
I find the talent. She's the brains of the operation.
It's awesome to be on here with both you people.
Well, thank you.
I'm-
We're glad to
Both.
have you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's been sort of a dream, and I've been thinking about Rez and you, and how, and then we'd have to go ahead and change it. We'd have to do this and that.
You know,
All I can say is dream bigger.
Hey, I'm going to the top, baby. So
Yeah, I'm
I
already
can't get
there.
much bigger. I know you are, and you're still growing.
I am, and
You
I'm
know,
very grateful for it. But you know, we're
you're
out
a
of
phoenix,
time.
my dear.
I am. I
We're out
keep
of
coming
time.
back. We're out of
Already?
time. We're out of time,
Oh,
guys. In fact, we're over time.
oh,
Yeah. But I do want
well,
to
that
remind
must
everyone, subscribe, ring bells,
like,
like, share, whatever you got to do, because we got some good stuff here. We want to get it out to the world. So,
and we need some more viewers so we can go ahead and start doing this live, guys.
yep.
We'll have
You
to
know,
just start spreading the wealth on
Yep.
my
yeah.
show too. I could go ahead and start spreading it.
Well,
Awesome.
I'm coming to your show here in about a month or so, ain't it? January, I think it is. We
I
decided.
was looking at, I think is it
I
January?
think we decided on January because we had to reschedule this month. So yes,
Well, in
we're
the
going to be
meantime, while
spreading the
we're
wealth.
figuring out what we're doing,
Well, we
thanks
better.
Yeah.
everybody, and
Thank you
we'll
very
catch you
much.
Thank
next
you.
time.
Hi.
Bye bye.
Bye.